Yeah, probably I should start with a prayer. Shall we? Father, thank you. Thank you so much for today that we have this apologetics weekend. And Lord, I believe that both the participants and the speakers has been blessed a lot by this conference. And Lord, thank you so much that you give us this chance to learn more about you and to learn about the church as the final apologetics. And Lord, I pray that you can grant us the wisdom and more importantly, grant us the right character that we can use apologetics in a way that pleases you, but not in an argumentative way. And Lord, I pray that the Holy Spirit will guide us through the session so that we can glorify you. We all pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So one thing about evangelism is that do you realize our problem in evangelism is not one of methodology, but one of maturity? I mean, as you have gone through the last session, right, our action did speak much louder than our words, right? And actually Christian walk is more than talk. And I believe that if you have a big heart for God, what I'm going to teach you about conversational evangelism will be helpful for your witness. Okay, so let me do a little bit more of introduction of myself. So here my family, me, my wife, and my 2-year-old daughter. And thank God that I'm a busy man, so I'm not like retrenched. Because, you know, I work for HP and there are a series of retrenchment, and thank God that both Lizzie and I still have job. And also, I mean, throughout our busy life, there are surprises. Like just now, you know, my daughter broke my glasses. So I was still wondering, you know, how am I going to see you? You know, but luckily, with Dorothy's help, yeah, I'm able to fix the spec. And you can't see. So God is so humorous, right? He allows certain things happen so that we can depend on Him. So the same goes for your conversation. So now I'm working in HP, but I don't see I'm just an employee in HP, but I want to turn my workplace as my missionary field so that I can reach out to people. And as I'm working in the line of software engineering, actually I don't need to travel to all these places. Indeed, the people from different nationality actually travel to Singapore to work. I have colleagues from China, I have colleagues from Vietnam, I have colleagues from definitely Malaysia, and the places around Asia, that I do believe that if we do a good job in our work, and also we engage people in the right way, God is going to be glorified. So that's what I'm trying to share today. And I want to introduce you my mentor. Is Dr. David Geisler. I'm sure that some of you might know him. And I cannot thank him enough for teaching me conversational evangelism. As a young Christian, last time, I mean, I'm getting older, so ever since I become a Christian, I have a passion for sharing the gospel. You know, I want to reach out to my friends, I want to reach out to my family. However, I realized one thing, that I can only share the gospel with those who are willing to listen to us. I cannot talk to those people that you know, they don't want to listen to us. They are not interested or agnostic about Christian faith. And I learned about conversational evangelism so that I can actually engage them more. Besides prayer, I can actually ask them questions and listen to their belief system so that I can take them step by step towards Jesus. And that's what I learned from Dr. Geisler. You know, I'm originally from Hong Kong, and people are generally not very interested in Jesus. Have you heard of the phrase like, 我唔想聽你講耶穌? So this represents something that, you know, Jesus is something boring, doesn't really concern me, right? Have you ever heard of this phrase again? You know, when you ask people, 你信咩教啊? They will say, 我信瞓覺. Meaning that they are completely agnostic and indifferent about religious thing, right? You ask them, oh, what religion do you believe? I mean, in Singapore, probably people will affiliate themselves with some kind of Buddhism, Taoism, or Christianity. But in Hong Kong, say, 瞓覺 means I believe in myself. So, in this postmodern world, probably, besides having a great heart for God, probably we have to use the right way to engage the culture. So this is an overview today. First of all, I'll talk about the challenges of evangelism today. Second, I'll talk a little bit about conversational evangelism. And my mentor has written a book down there, and I'm not going to cover everything that he's written in the book. And third, which is, I think, is most important, is practicing the little bit of conversational evangelism by doing some role play today. So I think we can read a book to learn theology, but can we read a book to learn evangelism? Probably can, but just that I believe that we can only learn evangelism by doing it. Lastly, I'll talk about taking the next step to wrap up today's session. So the challenges of evangelism today, I mean, when we try to talk to our friends, right? Some of our friends might be interested in Christianity, but sometimes we hear similar things like, all religious beliefs are the same. Why Christianity? Christians are arrogant and intolerant. They always think that they are right and the others are wrong. Why you Christians are so keen in converting others? And all these barriers prevents us from sharing with them the gospel. And I would like to let you pay attention to these three questions. If you don't have an answer now, I mean, it's good. I hope that after today's session, you will learn how to answer these three questions using role play. Okay? So we realized that evangelism today was different from 20 to 30 years ago. And why? It's because there's an erosion of truth that happens. People don't believe in truth anymore. When we proclaim to them that it's true that the Bible is reliable, it's true that Jesus rose from the dead and he's God, it's true that God exists, people will say something like, you know, it's true for you, Christian, but it's not true for me. And why does it concern us? So in order to be an effective witness today, we have to understand the key reason why people is having this kind of thinking. And to characterize the two key challenges, I use two P's. First P is pluralism, and second P is postmodernism. And these two P's are affecting the mind of our people that they have such a weak view on truth that the gospel can't reach them directly. So anybody know about pluralism? Yeah, many choices. And there are always many choices, but one key thing about pluralism is that they believe many choices, and even the choices are mutually exclusive. Even they are contradicting with one another. People think that they are the same, and all of them are true. So the impact to evangelism is that since all views are true, it does not matter what you believe. Then why we Christians so keen in converting others? And I think pluralism is part of our Chinese culture, because we like to take things and we are very practical people. And this is one of the example in Taiwan. You know, anyone can read the Chinese words? It's too small. So in the right-hand side, it talks about 上帝耶稣圣母玛利亚. So the right-hand side is Christian, Protestant, or Catholic, right? How about the left-hand side? 释迦牟尼观世音菩萨. So definitely it doesn't sound very Christian, right? So the thing on top, right, on the beam is 相见欢, means that they make peace with one another. In other words, this household want to get blessings from different religious beliefs, even though they are not the same, or they are some of the beliefs might be contradictory. And here is another example of pluralism that I see. So in yeah, I see the same auntie. In the morning in church, I saw her wearing, a cross pendant. Then after the worship service, I went down to have the dinner, to have lunch actually. Then I met the same auntie. I'm pretty sure this is the same auntie because she is carrying the same baby. Then she wears something different. You see, I can't understand. I mean, is the auntie Christian? Maybe yes, or maybe not. But it actually depicts the mentality of our people, right? That so long as you believe something, so long as you are faithful, right? You can get blessings and you can have peace of mind. It doesn't matter what you believe, even though they are different. Here is an analogy on pluralism. 6 blind men and the elephant. Anybody have heard of this analogy? Yeah. So to go through it quickly. So people describe pluralism or the matter of truth is about an elephant. So 6 blind men touches 6 different parts of the elephant. And they all get the different conclusion of what an elephant is. Someone touched the ear, then they will conclude that the elephant is a fan, wall, rope, tree, spear, and snake. So when we apply this analogy to religious belief, they might say different religious belief hold different parts of truths. Although they are mutually exclusive, but they are all true. Of course, there's a problem with this analogy. The problem is that it assumes everyone is blind, except you, except the person who made that statement. But if everyone is not blind, all of the people will see that this is an elephant. So it seems that pluralism is affecting a lot of people. The worst thing is that it's not only affecting how others think, non-Christians, but it's also silently affecting how Christian thinks. Listen to this Barnes report in 2000. About 1 out of 4 born-again Christians believe that it doesn't matter what faith you follow because they all teach the same lessons. It's 26%, 1 out of 4 born-again Christians. And the next one is 57% of evangelical church attenders say they believe many religions can lead to eternal life. So this time around, the Christians, so-called evangelical Christians or born-again Christians are confused. I mean, we're not talking about liberal, we're talking about conservative, like you and me. That half of the people in a church believe that all faith can lead to eternal life. So we talk about the first part of the P, the first P, pluralism. Let me talk about the second P, postmodernism. In postmodernism, we probably don't have enough time to cover what this means, but I want to highlight 2 characteristics of postmodernism that affect our witness. First, moral relativism. They all believe that there's no absolute right or wrong. Everything is relative. So what problem does it create? So if there's no absolute moral law, which means that there's no sinner. So if there's no sinner, it means what? Do I still need Jesus? No. I mean, it's especially true in Chinese culture. A lot of people doesn't have the right concept of sin, right? They believe that I don't smoke, I don't drink, right? I'm not a criminal. Then you call me a sinner? No. So it's affecting our witness, not just the West, but the East. Secondly, they believe in construction and deconstruction. In extreme form, is a belief that our thoughts, attitude, as well as our very existence is just a social construct and is not real. So, basically they believe that. So in the history of philosophy, until postmodern time, right, people all believe that truth is discovered, right? We discover truth, right? We don't create truth. But postmodernism believes something like, truth is not discovered, but created. can you tell me any of the example that people are creating truth or making up lies to make it into truth? Very popular example, Da Vinci Code. Right? That people wrote history, but Dan Brown, what he's doing in the novel is that he rewrote history. Actually, he creates history, right, by deconstructing what we believe as the true and biblical story of Jesus, and create his own one. I think throughout the history of the church, there are heresies and cults, right? They try to teach something different from the Bible, which is good. But this time is that Dan Brown is doing it. But the thing is that he's immensely popular now, right? It's not like only a minority group that buy into his teaching, but even some Christians are confused. And I even heard stories like, missionaries left their missionary field after reading Da Vinci Code. So because of this weaker view on truth, it explains why many are questioning the biblical story of Jesus. Like the Da Vinci Code, the lost gospel of Judas, which is saying something like Judas is actually the most beloved disciple of Jesus. So the act of betrayal is just a drama. The lost tomb of Christ, it's talking about, Jesus' ossuaries, has his name on it and has some other name. And people concluded that, this ossuary is actually containing the bone of Jesus, so Jesus did not resurrect. And the golden compass, it's talking about a story that God can be killed. So many of them are questioning the biblical story of Jesus. And what's the big deal, right? When people question the biblical story of Jesus, it's such a big deal that Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:14, if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless, and so is your faith. So if there's no such thing as Jesus' resurrection, there's no such thing as Christianity. So we have covered two P's, pluralism and postmodernism. And don't be alarmed, because the Bible is already talking about this kind of world that we are living in, that people are not receptive to the gospel and people are getting very deceived. 2 Timothy 4:3-4 says, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teacher in accordance to their own desire, and will turn away their ears from the truth, and will turn aside to myth." People will turn their ear away from truth and turn to myth. Isn't that Da Vinci Code is quite a good example on this? So now the key question is, how can we do more effective evangelism in this kind of world? So probably we need to understand better the time or the culture in which we live. So if we understand that our culture is characterized by these two P's, we might be like the man of Issachar, that we need to understand the time in which we live so that we know what to do. So it seems that we need to repackage our gospel, repackage our approach in sharing the gospel in this postmodern and pluralistic time. That we don't change the gospel message, but we change the way that communicate the same message. Isn't Paul doing the same thing? Right? Paul essentially communicates the same gospel message to Jews and Gentiles. But to the Jews, he shows that Jesus is the promised Messiah, right? But for Gentile, he reasoned with them, right? And now we are living in a postmodern world and pluralistic world. Shouldn't we change our way so that we can engage the culture and make an impact and make a difference in others' lives. So, how to do? How do we package the gospel? Probably I need to introduce you conversational evangelism. One thing about conversational evangelism is that we don't tell people answers. We want them to find out their answers. So essentially, that's what I'm doing now. So let's imagine, I'm putting you in a scenario, right? Let's imagine you participated in your church short-term mission trip. You were asked by your pastor to share a short gospel message with a group of non-believing students. Okay, they are pluralists, polytheists, idol worshipper, and postmodernists. How are you going to share the gospel? I mean, here are some of the typical options that I have listed. Option one, probably you can, try to move them by your personal testimony. And option two, probably we can just, we can tell them, preach to them that the Bible is the Word of God. And third, I try to convince them they are the sinner and Jesus died for their sins. However, I believe that the Holy Spirit is going to bring someone to God. But the question is that, no matter what options we choose, people can still give excuse to the gospel message, right? Like, for example, option one, if you share your testimony on how Christ changed your life, I did the same thing. Then auntie told me that, Bo Gong also changed my life. Guan Yin also changed my life. And she shared about her testimony on how she get healed. The same thing, right? If we shared to people that the Bible is the Word of God, then people will talk to you about, how about our Lotus Sutra? Oh, I got so many impactful idea there, and I'm so inspired by that. So, how can we share the gospel in such a way that people can't give you any excuse? Any ideas? So essentially, that's the key of conversational evangelism, and probably we can learn something from Apostle Paul. Okay. So do you all bring along your Bible? Yeah. What time is it now? May I know? 6:05. Okay. So I got a sleep that I can end at 6:45. What a grace. So I want you to spend 5 minutes to read Acts 17, 16 to 32 and answer the question in the outline. Usually I'll give like 10 minutes, but we're running out of time. And I don't want to skip this part, so I have no choice but shorten to 5 minutes. Okay, time's out. Probably still reading, but because of the shortage of time. So can anyone tell me the similarities between the people of Athens and Malaysian Singaporeans? This is where in Malaysia. I got an answer from a kid. They're all people. They're all human beings. Yeah, of course, it's true.
I think that in this part of the world, the unbelievers do probably have a sense that there is a God, and they do not know whether the God is knowable or unknowable, and whether the God is kind or angry. So I think that most people in this part of the world are not atheists as such. So I would say yes, there's similarity to the people of Athens, because they do believe in the existence of God. I think.
Yeah. So they do, and actually so what did Paul see in the city? Acts 17, 16, and it upset Paul a lot, right? That it was a city full of idols. So they do believe that there's God. The problem is not about atheism, but polytheism. right? Too many gods. And also, do you know what it means by Epicureans and Stoics? So there are two different kinds of philosophers. So Epicureans believe that so they're gods, but they are all in Mount Olympus. So they don't concern us because they have affairs, they have wars. So they don't concern us. So we don't have to please them. So what they do, they just please themselves. They are pleasure seekers. I have friends who are like that, right? That they earn money and they enjoy themselves, spend, have drinks, meet friends. And also Stoics. Stoics is opposing philosophy, believe that they should have strong discipline and they should pursue virtue. They also believe in a god, that the god is actually cosmos, so it's a kind of pantheism. So they are a part of this world, so they are essentially a part of God. So why they pursue virtue is because they want to be, integrated, or it's a good part of the universe. Isn't that very similar to today's, Hindu thinking? So in some sense, the people in Athens is quite similar to us. Although they are Moors, right? But they do believe that there are many gods, and they believe in enjoyment in life, and some of them do believe that they need to discipline themselves. And the second question, do you think all of them are seekers? No. Yeah, with that background and from the text, actually Luke wrote down that they're actually not. So Paul, I could imagine that Paul was trying very hard to earn the right of speaking to them. So in 17, 18, the people listen to Paul and say, what is this Barbara trying to say? He seems to be advocating foreign gods. So the people are not exactly seekers. So they might want to put up Paul in that Mars Hill and want to mock him, right? So Paul is in that situation. They're not like the seekers waiting, preparing them. Paul is not like Billy Graham in Athens. So this is the key question. What is Paul's approach in reaching out to these people?
I think one of empathy, because his approach, I see that you are all very religious because I listen all that.
Yeah. But how did Paul get this idea that they are very religious?
The outward show because of
Yeah, good. That actually Paul did his own work. So he walked around the city so that you can see the city has a lot of idols. And he visited marketplace in Athens. Maybe he talked to, today's language, right? He talked to kopitiam, auntie, understand, what the person believed. And also, he talked to the academics, right? He talked to the two kinds of philosophers. So in order to empathize with them, Paul actually listened to them. And that's one of the key points in conversational evangelism. Listen to the person's, to the other's belief system. So what else?
I think he zoomed in on the fact that there was this altar with inscription to their own God.
Mm-hmm.
So he used that as a platform to start talking about God can be broken rather than the person God.
Yeah, good. That he picks up a common ground to communicate with those people. He's not advocating Messiah, right? Jesus is the promised Messiah. But he actually studied that and find out what is in common between Paul and them and Christianity and their religious belief. Although their religious belief are not the truth, but indeed they have something that we can actually pick up. They're not totally wrong, right? They teach filial piety. All these are the common grounds that we can also build our message on. And I want to highlight to you in verse 28 and 29. This is the key points that I want you to understand. Can somebody read this? For in him we live and move and have our being. And some of
your own poet have said, we are his offspring. In verse 29, therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. So Paul's approach is that he starts with their belief, right, common ground, and he takes an extra step. He points out the inconsistencies in their belief. He's talking to the people at Athens and said, hey, your own poet, actually it's poet from Crete, say that you are the offspring of God. Literally it means what? God created them. But on the other hand, because their cities are full of idols, and I mean, you created them, and can both be right? So, Paul, after he points out the inconsistency, then he preached the gospel. Right? He was doing all this in verse 28 and 29, and in verse 30, then he preached the gospel message. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. Now, building common ground, right? Pointing out inconsistency, and then he talks about the evidence of Jesus' resurrection as a proof of his divinity. So, what is the value of Paul's approach? You know, when we talk to people, right, they close their ears. But if a pointed question causes him to form the answer in his own mind, he cannot escape the conclusion, because it's a conclusion that he reached himself. So he asks Athens, like, can A and B be true at the same time? I mean, you're either created by God or God created you, right? Then he built his point on top and let them discover the truth. I mean, of course, in the end, not everyone in Mars Hill get converted to Christian, right? There are 3 different responses. I mean, if you read carefully, right? Some say that, oh, yeah, I'm interested to hear more. And some actually believe on the spot. And third, they say, Paul, you're crazy. So, by using this approach, right, at least the people are responding to the message and not giving excuse. So back to the scenario, we could probably use Paul's approach to reach our crowd, postmodern, pluralistic people, right? That by doing pre-evangelism. So pre-evangelism, have you heard of this term? So let me give you an analogy. So if evangelism is planting seeds of the gospel, pre-evangelism is tilling the soil of their mind and heart, preparing them to be at least willing to listen to the truth. So conversational evangelism is the pre-evangelism methodology. And why is it so important nowadays? It's because I think we have a lot of good evangelistic tools that help us to present the gospel to others, like 4 spiritual laws, gospel preachers, and evangelism explosion. But do you realize that all these tools are
tools, but not pre-evangelistic tool? That when people are hostile, skeptical, and indifferent to Christianity, I mean, these tools are, they are not open to our message. So that's why pre-evangelism is an essential part of our witness today in our world characterized by 2 Ps, pluralism and postmodernism. So one thing I learned about evangelism is that indeed, evangelism is a process. I mean, we used to think that evangelism is an encounter, or in the past, I thought that, I share the gospel, I have to share all the 4 spiritual laws. And if I don't share the full law, then I have not shared the gospel. And I used to think that evangelism is just, hit or miss encounter. So if I invite that person to church and if he turned down, oh, that's it, I failed. But indeed, evangelism is more as a process. Just like 1 Corinthians 3:6 said, I planted the seed, which is Paul planted the seed, Apollo watered it, but God make it grow. So just as the seed needs time to grow into a plant, right? So do our gospel message, and we can play in different parts in the person's spiritual journey with God. I mean, someone plant the seed, some water it, and in the end, it's the Holy Spirit, right, that make the person believe and grow. So my mentor taught me that this is an expanded definition of evangelism, that every day, in every way, helping our believing friends to take one step closer to Jesus. Okay, so in our pluralistic world, right, we are, I mean, not everyone will be willing to listen to our message, but sometimes helping a person take a step towards Christ also means that help him take a step away from their false beliefs. I mean, if you happen to talk to a pluralist and after the conversation, I mean, you think that pluralism is not true anymore, then, I mean, it's a kind of evangelism as well. So actually, this is very true in my evangelistic encounter. I had a journey with a Chinese PhD student that he come from mainland China and he study in NTU. And I know him through another friend that he has a lot of questions about Christianity and he could not understand. So one of the key barrier about him is that he told me he brought up in materialistic background, right, that materialism is his core belief. So because God is not material, I mean, he doesn't believe that God exists. So I asked him this question: do you know materialism itself is not material? Right, I mean, when you hear claims like that, you always apply the claim to itself, right? That they believe that all things believed are material. And is this theory material in itself? Like, can we weigh this message or statement? We cannot, right? We cannot measure, right? Anything that material has color, you know, has shape, and has a location. But just that, you know, this is something that is immaterial, but yet he's holding on to it. And this kind of, you know, self-contradictory statement that somebody makes. So after asking him this question, it kind of like open up more opportunity. So in the end of the conversation, he did not become a Christian, and he even asked me like some more question to stop talking about Christianity. But to my surprise, 3 years later, he told me through MSN. You know, when I look back, although at that time, 3 years ago, I was not accepting your points, I feel my conception began to change, and I will be baptized next Sunday. So it takes 3 years, and ever since I became a Christian, I wanted to share the message with my younger sister, and it took her 10 years. And in another occasion, I did another training. I talked to an auntie, and an auntie shared with me, and he agreed with me that evangelism is a process. You guess what? She waited for her husband to believe in Jesus for over 20 years. So the key is that we have to tell ourselves that so long as we are faithful, God is always faithful, and we will see the results. So let me cover this. Why don't we just proclaim the truth? I mean, again, to further enhance this is we live in a world which people are reluctant to be told what is true, but they may be willing to see for themselves the inconsistency in what they believe by asking them probing and thought-provoking questions. So the other aspect of conversational evangelism is that we allow others to discover the truth for themselves rather than telling them what they should believe. There's some questions that I use to ask my friends. So let me share with you some of the my encounter. So there's another conversation with my colleague. So my colleague is an atheist. I mean, I already know that, and he asked me. Actually, he saw me saying grace before dinner. He asked me, "Are you a Christian?" Then I told him yes. Then I asked him, you know, there are so many religions out there, right? Why do you not believe in God? And he told me, no, there's not enough evidence. You know, I'm trained in apologetics, and had I not learned about conversational evangelism, I mean, I would give him all the stuff I learned from class, right? Case for Christ or whatever, right? Existence of God, and all the books, right, out there. But take a step back. Is it willing to listen? I mean, he even told me that he's not even a free thinker. He's an atheist. I mean, it's a pretty strong word. So to me, atheist means somebody 100% sure that there's no God. So instead of telling him all the evidence, I asked him, you know, what kind of evidence you are looking for? I mean, to me, it's more than enough evidence to believe that there's a God. Then he was silent. Then I asked him a follow-up question. So since you're so sure that, you know, God doesn't exist, you know, what are the evidence for your beliefs? So I think by asking him this question, he was able to articulate his belief, and through the articulation, he find out his own inconsistency in his beliefs. So he talked about Big Bang, to evolution, to human being. You know, I mean, I didn't even tell him, though in the end of the conversation, he realized that, I mean, his point is not even an evidence at all. So he told me, you know, Raymond, you know, all these are just beliefs. I don't need evidence for my atheism. So you see, he backed off. And for a strong atheist like him, right? I mean, he's simply not ready for the gospel message. But what we can do is ask them probing questions so that they can take a step away from their wrong belief system. I mean, at least he's not a strong atheist. Think that his atheism is backed up by strong, solid evidence. And I want to share with you my other conversation with a taxi driver. So the taxi driver was quite chatty. So I asked him, "Are you doing night shift?" Then he talked to me, or basically his day shift, but sometimes he got to cover his partner because his partner is a Malay. Then somehow he badmouthed a little bit about his Malay partner, saying, "Oh, he's lazy" or whatever. Then in the end, he told me that, luckily, the Malay driver is in Singapore. Otherwise, I don't know how he gets this conception. But, you know, a Muslim in Malaysia, husband and wife cannot go to cinema together. They have to sit separately. But anyway, I don't believe that he's right. But anyway, just listen, right? Conversational evangelism. And we don't point out all the wrong beliefs, but we want to build common ground. So after listening to all this, I asked him, you know, so do you have any religious belief? Then he is very proud of his pluralism. But he told me, his family a lot of religious belief. But he told me he's a Taoist. Then his brother is Buddhist, and he got a sister who is a Christian. Oh, then I told you. I don't jump straight and say, you know, pluralism is wrong. So I told him, oh, wow, so good that you got all the major world religion in your house, huh? So since you know these few religions, so can I ask you a question? Do you know the difference between Christianity and other religious beliefs? Then I think this question set him thinking. Then I told him, you know, I can tell you in 2 words. Do you want to hear? Have you all heard about do versus done? Do versus done. So for all the other major religious beliefs, we have to do in order to earn our salvation, right? For example, Buddhism, you have to get rid of all your desire to go to that other world. And for Muslim, at least they have to pray 5 times a day in order to get to heaven. But as for Christianity, we thought that, what? It's already done, D-O-N-E, done. Right? Since God is so great, whatever we have done doesn't really make a difference, right? So long as we say yes to that gift, it's already done for us. It's already ready. So I asked him, is it the first time you heard about this? I said, yes. Then we talk about some other things. And I want him to see the inconsistency in Buddhism beliefs as well. So I asked him, as a Buddhist, do you think we can get rid of all desires? By getting rid of all desire, all the Eightfold Path. So he tell me, so probably not. I still love money, and that's why I drive taxi. So we can't get rid of all our desires. Then I asked him a follow-up question. Do you know what Christianity teach about desire? Then by then, our taxi has already reached the destination, but he want me to continue talking. So I told him, we don't believe that we can live in this world by getting rid of all desire. But instead of getting rid of all desire, we have to desire the right thing. So Jesus taught us to be perfect. Jesus taught us to hunger for the truth. We have desire, but we have to desire the right thing. Then he told me, yeah, sounds so right. Then he gave me some discount. So that's some of the material benefit of talking to taxi driver. And if he happens to like you, then I also encourage her to go to church someday, because he told me that his sister is actually married to a pastor and they are missionaries in Taiwan. Yeah. So sometimes witnessing to your family members are more difficult. So the bottom line about pre-evangelism is that, it's simple logics. The more opportunity we have to share the gospel, the greater likelihood that more people will come to know Christ. Correct, right? So the more pre-evangelism we do, the more opportunity we will have to share the gospel with others. Then what is the conclusion? Syllogism, learn about apologetics, right? So you take the first two statements, then you will reach a conclusion that necessarily follows. So therefore, what does these two statements say about pre-evangelism and people coming to Christ? So therefore, combining the two statements, we have this conclusion: the more pre-evangelism we do, the greater likelihood that more people will come to Christ. So by all means, do more. And so we talk about listening, we talk about asking questions, and I want you to learn about, probably we don't have time, but yeah, since it show up the picture paints a million or thousands words. So what we listen is listening to shower notes. So we have good singer and bad singer. Unfortunately, some of the bad singers are very popular in their times, like him, right? So in the same way, we have good beliefs and bad beliefs. A belief that is popular, it may or may not be good beliefs. Then how do we tell between good and bad beliefs? So basically, good beliefs means that they don't contradict one another, right? Like what pointed out in Effluence, that these two statements cannot be true in the same sense at the same time. Another example of sour notes or bad belief system is some statement can also be self-defeating or self-contradictory. What is the problem here? There are absolutely no absolutes. So the girl is saying that, making an absolute statement, saying that there's no absolute statement. It's something like, I'm telling you, I cannot speak English. Right, I'm speaking in English that tells you, or you cannot speak English. Right, there's a whole lot of popular beliefs that are self-contradictory. Like everything is relative. Right, it's an absolute statement, right? What about this? What about God is so far beyond us, we cannot know anything about Him. Then if we cannot know anything about Him, how do you know that God is so far beyond us? At least you know one thing about God, right? How about this? All truth has to be determined in laboratory. Why is this truth verifiable in laboratory? I mean, can you really test that statement using a guinea pig? Well, you cannot, right? So there's a lot of popular statement or belief system that people are holding, which is self-contradictory. And as a good witness and practicing pre-evangelism, we have to be sensitive to this. Second, when we ask question, we have to keep this 3D principle in mind so that we ask the question in a right way. That our question has to surface doubt in their own belief system, minimize defensiveness, and also create a desire to want to hear more. So let me illustrate with you, using sometimes, that's what I find out, and that's what my mentor taught me, that practicing conversational evangelism is like fishing. We have to see what kind of questions or topic will hook the interest. When you fish, you try many times, right? Not every time you throw, then you get one fish. The same way that we have to actively fishing, trying to find out people's interests and ask questions. And let me share with you my conversation with my colleague 1 week ago to show you what is 3D principle. So I had a colleague who is from Vietnam. So through working and talking with him on religious issue, he's a by name Buddhist. He's not an atheist. He believed that there's some kind of a spiritual thing out there, but he's definitely not interested in religion. He's not interested in Christianity. And I was exploring ways to hook his interest. He's very IT guy, and he liked a lot of the techie stuff. But I tried those, and those doesn't work. But this one worked. So God is faithful. So I asked him, what is the plan during the Good Friday weekend? He told me, I'm going to Maldives with my wife for honeymoon. Oh, well, so good. You celebrate Good Friday in Maldives with nice beaches and sea. I say some more, I'm staying in Singapore, taking care of my 2-year-old baby. Then he told me, how do you celebrate? He knows it's a Christian thing. Then I told him, we'll be going to church for Good Friday service. And have anyone told you what it means by Good Friday? Why not Good Thursday, Good Wednesday, right? So I think this hooks his interest. I asked him, actually, we are remembering or so-called celebrating Jesus' death. Normally people will celebrate birthday of historic figures like Buddha and Ho Chi Minh, and maybe his idol birthday. But we don't normally celebrate someone's death, right? It's a huge loss when you lost a great person. Although we Christian mourn, but in some sense we celebrate Jesus' death. Then he told me, oh yeah, you're right. How come Christians celebrate Jesus' death? So strange. Then I share with him the Easter message. For us Christians, the death of Jesus is very important, but we won't be celebrating his death if there's no Easter Sunday. Then I share with him the evidence of Jesus' resurrection and the importance of his death and resurrection to us as Christians. I'm still praying for him. But at least I got a chance to share, and he also listened at least to the gospel message. So now, any questions so far? We covered the challenges, 2 P's. We covered
to conversational evangelism, right? Listen and ask questions. So far, do you have any questions? Probably we don't have the time to do role play, but I just want you to learn how to answer. You all still remember the 3 questions? Using conversational evangelism. So if you don't have question, then I ask you question about the 3 questions, okay? So keeping these 3 Ds in mind, how do you answer the first question? Actually, all religious beliefs are the same. What's special about Christianity? Here are some tips. So do you need to understand why the person says all religious beliefs are the same? Second, can you explain how Christianity is different from other religious beliefs? We go back to suggestion 1. Our tips. One more slide back. Yeah. So when the person says that all religious beliefs are the same, I mean we don't assume that he's saying the thing that we understood, right? A lot of people are saying what they believe, but they're not actually believing the thing that they say they believe. Just like a lot of Christians say that they're Christian, but actually they're not holding on to the beliefs. So probably we have to ask the person, right, why he thinks that all religious beliefs are the same. And second, we all still remember the 2 versus done. And now I teach you another way to explain how Christianity is different from other religious beliefs. That's my mentor taught me. Buddha claimed to point to the way. Muhammad claimed to be a prophet of God. But Jesus is the only major religious leader that claimed to be God. And he does prove to that, who fulfilled prophecy, lived a sinner's life, and died on the cross and rose from the dead. The other major religious leader did not claim to be God. But Jesus claimed to be God and also proved to be God. I mean, there are lunatics who claim to be God, right, every day, but they don't have proof. How about question 2? How do we answer the claim that, Christians are arrogant to claim that they are the only way? Again, practicing conversational evangelism. To find out why your friend thinks that we are arrogant. Right, probably he has some bad experience with Christians. They are very arrogant, right? I mean, we don't know whether this is an intellectual question or emotional question, and we have to ask them. And second, why do your friends think that we are intolerant? Can we give some examples to show that we are actually not so? When they claim that we are arrogant and intolerant, right? Can you think of some example, or some way to say that we are not intolerant? So is this, do you really tolerate your spouse? I mean, I don't tolerate my spouse. I love my spouse or my wife, right? I mean, you don't tolerate your favorite dessert, right? Or you don't tolerate me now, right? You love, so yes, you can say, right, that Christianity is intolerant to other beliefs, but Jesus is not teaching us to tolerate them. What did Jesus tell us? We have to love our neighbors. And our neighbors is not our brothers and sisters, but someone who has no relation to us. Basically, Jesus is asking us to love everyone. So the third one. So if Christians are so loving, then why are they so keen on converting others? You know, some people are irritated.
So, can I ask something?
Yep.
Okay, if let's say you say, okay, Christianity, you Christians, you're so intolerant of other people, and then you ask back, where, what instances
Yeah, I
have
mean,
you? Okay, then you say, can I show you some examples of where we're not? And then what the answers you give is that, we are called to love one another, so we're not just tolerating. Then I can come back and say, then why do you keep wanting to convert me?
yeah, that's exactly the third question. Yeah, if Christians are so loving, why do they so keen to convert others? Yeah, that's my question to you indeed. How do you? Yeah, you're smart. You know, I already predicted your question. But I'm not saying that. So yeah, why do we convert others? So after we learn about conversational evangelism, right, we have to clarify what someone means by converting others. Right? Somebody understand converting others means that you force upon your own beliefs others against people's will, right? But in the Bible, do Jesus force his belief against people's will? No, right? The Pharisees, the people. I mean, when they want to listen, then they accept Jesus' message. But Jesus never force his belief or force his salvation onto someone else, right? So that's the first question, that clarify what the word converting means, and also clarifies our stand that we're not converting or so-called evangelizing you against your will. If you find out that the person has some bad experience with some Christians, probably you might want to apologize if you feel appropriate. Someone are so anxious, about your eternal destiny, and they want you to know the right thing. Probably the intention is good, but there's miscommunications. And second, can you think of some way? To us, right, we are not indeed converting people, but we are persuading people. We use reason. We give people reason to show that we have the truth, and they can make the decision. So a lot of people, especially in this postmodern world, right, people confuses what it means by persuasion and conversion. So in order to illustrate this point, to show that not all persuasions are bad, can you think of an example? Sometimes persuasion can be the most loving thing to do. Like, let's say if there's smoke coming up from your neighbor's house. Yeah, exactly, right? Do you just walk away and let them hold on to their beliefs system? Don't convert them, don't persuade them. What you should do? Go and knock the door and say, "Oh, fire! Escape!" Right?
So the point is, I suppose you can tell them that if I know that something bad is going to happen to somebody, I must warn that person
Yeah.
about it. At the same time, if I know of something good that this person should know about, like for example, Isipan is having a sale,
Yeah.
a friend, that kind of thing. Or if I have, if my friend has just had a baby, you want to tell a friend that she has a baby or is pregnant or whatever. So good news is meant to be shared with friends.
Yeah. Do you have a follow-up question? Yeah, I think that's a good point.
How to share an experience? So I had a friend who was a Hindu, And over a conversation, she said, why do they, the Buddhists don't try to convert the Muslims don't try to convert, the others don't try to convert. Why do Christians try to convert? And when it was just a conversation over the phone, and the quickening of the spirit, my reply to her was, if you had a bottle of water, miraculous medicine, if you take a drop, it will make you live forever and ever. What would you do with that medicine? Will you take a drop and go and bury it in your backyard? And she thought for a while, then she said, no, I would probably give it to my family and my loved ones. And I asked her why. And she said, because I don't want to live alone in this world forever and ever and ever. Everybody else that I love will die. And and that was a way of telling her why the followers of Christ share Christ with them. It's because we don't want to be alone. We want our loved ones to be.
Well, it's a very, very Asian, perspective on that. We want to be together, right? Even die, we also want to die together. Like this apologetics is very, some people view it as a very Western, and really, I really like your examples, and I think your example is even better. First, it sounds more positive, right? Second, it has the Asian context there. Yeah, good. And you're already practicing, conversational evangelism. So do you have any question about the examples, methodology? No, then let me cover the last point. Yeah, taking that next step. Now that you learned the conversational evangelism briefly, and the way to practice evangelism is to look for divine appointment daily and make your conversation count. Think of creative way to make your divine appointment count. I mean, for me, as I Ching said, I'm a busy person. I mean, I'm proud of that. I'm a busy person. And one of the way that I can make my divine appointment count is to look at people's Facebook status. Sometimes people like to put some chim stuff there, and probably there's a good way to respond, like my friend. Man has become the measure of most things in life, of animal, of emotional, of ethics, and worst of all, of God. I mean, I already started, actually I talked to him for a very long time using conversational evangelism, and he doesn't take that step. And the first time I take a look at this message, I was sad, I was trying so hard to bring him at least to admit that there's such a thing called truth, and he told me, man has become the measure of most things. Basically, it's relativism by Protagoras, and he started to read up some, philosophy. Basically, he's not really taking a step forward. Sometimes he takes backwards. And when you practice conversation evangelism, I mean, don't give up. I mean, people can walk in different directions. So I pay attention to his status, and then I pointed out some of his inconsistencies. And this is his reply to me. So the conversation is long about truth, about Jesus, about knowledge of truth. I mean, it's a little bit more philosophical. And in the end, I just stick to the principle of conversational evangelism, 3Ds. Told me these chains of events start to happen, and I have moved myself, a belief system, from agnosticism to deism. So it probably does not come as a surprise to you, as I've told you before, that I'm a bit towards believing in the existence of God than otherwise. It was great talking to you. Again, dear friend, let me visit you sometime. So he wanted to see the baby, and he wanted to talk some more. So 3Ds, the desire. So, yeah, so I advise you to think of way that you can make your conversation count. Be sensitive to the Holy Spirit when you talk to people, especially in the matter of faith. So, any questions so far? Okay, no, then why don't we close with a prayer? Father, thank you so much that I don't have time to share what I've learned in the conversation evangelism with this group. And Lord, thank you that you called your 12 disciples to change the world. And Lord, we are more than 12 disciples here. And Lord, I pray that you can use each one of us to be like one of your disciples, even though we are small in terms of number. But Lord, I pray that you can give us a big heart for you, big heart for the lost, a big heart for the Great Commission, so that we can remember what we have learned today and also be sensitive to our divine appointment daily. We all pray in Jesus' name. Amen.